I don't know what happened, but this shirt fit perfectly when Tyler sent it to me before COVID. It must have shrunk. What's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and today we have a review of Capra and their debut album In Transmission via Metal Blade and Blacklight Media. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Capra is a metalcore and hardcore band based out of Louisiana that originally formed in 2015 and are very much recommended for fans of Every Time I Die, given their penchant for southern fried guitar hooks and sardonic lyrics. The group, now made up of vocalist Crow Lotus, Tyler Harper on guitar, drummer Jeremy Randazzo, and Ben Paramore on bass, is now freshly signed to the Metal Blade roster, and a buzz is definitely growing in the underground. Sometimes the right band at the right time with the right song just strikes a chord. In this case, that song was most certainly Torture Ship. When this song dropped as the first single, my jaw dropped. It is the perfect union of straight up banger bliss with a poignant message attached to it. I was immediately captivated by Crow's passionate vocals on the intro, spit forth in a chaotic and wholly genuine display of pain and bitterness. There was a certain vulnerability to it that is just so personal and ultimately magnetic as a result. I can't tell you how many times I've been caught in this song's gravitational pull, and I still mouth along or scream along to the opening every single time. Combine that with Tyler's very Jordan Buckley tremolo lines, and it just makes for one of those lightning in a bottle moments. So yeah, I must have listened to the song at least 100 times by now, and with it now attached to this new release, it still gives me goosebumps every single time. It really gets you right in the feels, especially when you're really paying attention to the lyrics. For a split second, I feel like I know what it's like to be Crow, even though I obviously don't. The new single for this release was The Locust Preacher. Now, I gotta tell you, the hype was really high for this one, and they did not disappoint. This is another song in a similar vein as Torture Ship. Great music video too, highly recommend checking that out, but just further fleshing out the message, continuing with that genuine flair and just that passionate delivery. And it kind of brings front and center this hot topic right now of the question of politics and social justice in music. I actually had the pleasure of sitting down with Crow and Tyler just today as I'm recording this, and that interview should be available for you to listen to right now, but we had a good conversation about that, and to me, this is that done right. Because in my opinion, it is possible to fuck it up by being too heavy-handed, being too ham-fisted. This is not that. This is not preachy, it's not soapboxy, it just feels honest and just very personal, and I think that is the key feature here. You can't just jam platitudes in someone's face and expect them to follow it. What people get behind are stories, and this feels very much like a reflection. Just a moment spent walking in someone's shoes, and it's left up to you to decide what to do with that. I mean, honestly, and this is just me personally, sometimes when I see videos of people at marches and things, and the pussy hats and all that, it makes me roll my eyes, but this album, when I listen to it, it makes me want to get up and fucking take action. Don't let it take me! Please let me go! Especially as someone who's had 4 daughters, between this and Sharptooth in particular, I am just so thankful for this latest wave of badass women, for them to see in the metal and hardcore scene. But getting back to the music, then there's Medusa, which just fucking cooks. Killer foot-tapping D-beat with more killer Every Time I Die sounding guitars, more great scream-alongs, one of my personal favorites here, treated like a dog, treated like shit. Just a total rager, almost like on Motorhead levels. I cannot wait to get fucking bruised to this track live. It really is this interesting yin and yang too, of this like kind of like party-hungry, fun-loving music with these really heavy messages attached to them. Same goes for Paper Tongues, which Crow actually listed as her favorite song to perform. And the main riff on this one actually reminds me a lot of the song Tuscan Temper. Red Guillotine and Deadbeat Assailant are also among my personal favorites. Again, this great counterbalance of dark topics like being taken advantage of and domestic abuse with those unmistakable Every Time I Die runs. Great dynamic transitions too that lead to some really attitude-laden moments in the slower picking parts. Very punk rock sounding vocals on some of these too. At times I was getting sort of like Cherry Bomb vibes, but on steroids. Honestly, more so this feels like Crow is channeling that Wendy O. Williams Plasmatics energy with a touch of Minor Threat for good measure. But I was very happy to hear directly from Crow on the podcast that one of her primary inspirations is one that we share. Henry Rollins.
Do you have some tea? Like a slippery elm? Anything herbal?
But some of these vocal moments just feel fit to explode. There's this whole great part of, we're battered and bruised with nothing to lose. And then this closing mantra repeated of, and you'll be the one who dies. I can't even begin to do it justice. Just know you need to go fucking listen to this album and hear Crow perform these vocals on top of these amazing drums and guitars and bass.
Try not to fear. I know that the fear is what brings them here.
And there's also some more mournful, melodically tinged tracks as well, like Hollow Doll, Samariah Carey, one of my personal favorite track names, and the opening of Mutt, which Tyler listed as his favorite song to perform. These have a little bit of a different feel. It's almost like more of like a post-hardcore thing, getting some like early Touche Amore vibes at times. And again, these lyrics just like cut you to the bone. One of the ones that really stood out to me that I had to like go back and reread over and over again. And every time I hear it, it like breaks my heart. It's making me sad just reading it, but you might as well die today. Why wait for tomorrow? And again, it's the way that it's performed that is just so profound feeling. I re-listened to some of these tracks and I genuinely tear up. And Mutt also has some additional vocals from Tyler's friend Jed Payne at the end, and they just sound broken. Like, I don't even know. I can't even go there. Overall, I am just in love with this album on a visceral level, and it's definitely easily one of my favorites of the month. I will say though, there is still some room for growth. Turning to my scales, I give this a 9 for enjoyability. In general, like I said, like I am emotionally engaged 100%. I love the instrumentation. I love a lot of the songwriting. Is it always perfectly consistent? Are there areas where I feel like, okay, we could use a little bit more dynamics here? Could we add a little bit more of a unique touch on this part? But I mean, for a band just getting started, and this is your foundation, the rest should be a cakewalk from here. I give it an 8 for musicianship. Pretty standard kind of hardcore punk rock, just fun-loving, like I said, party time kind of sounding music. Not overly technical, it does have its moments, but not something that I could really warrant giving a much higher score. So again, if they really want to, they could push things in a further direction with this, but even if they didn't, I don't think I'd give a fuck. I would continue to buy the albums and enjoy the hell out of them. And I give it a 7 for innovation. As much as I love Every Time I Die, I do have to kind of like decide that because this sounds so similar to that, it's hard for me to like award this any extra points for doing something new, doing something different. But again, this is one of those bands, and I have a few of them, where if they just continued to stay on this exact same path, I would still be on board. So keeping it as objective as possible, and again, full disclosure, knowing that me and Tyler have been communicating for a while, he sent me this shirt again that I am too fat to wear at this point. But yeah, trying to give this more of an overhead view, I'd say overall it's an 8 and a B- for Capra and In Transmission. Get it again via Metal Blade and Blacklight Media. Fucking buy this album. Fuck the score. Like, this is great. And they should absolutely be proud of every second of it. Y'all, thanks as always for watching, and let me know down in the comments what did you think of this album and what's your favorite Every Time I Die album. I am planning on doing a tier list. I actually did a previous podcast with my buddy Dan of the Hudson Horror, who is partially responsible for the theme song of Metal Trenches, where we talked through our favorite albums and rankings for that. But I am planning on doing a formal tier list, but I'm just waiting for them to drop the new album, because it just seems worth it to do that. But stick around, I got plenty more videos coming right after this one, more album reviews, other tier lists, interviews with bands on the podcast. Again, listen to that interview with Capra, really enjoyed doing that. And then chat with us on Discord and support on Patreon. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.